Welcome back. You're still with us on Startup Street. Let's go across to another big story today. Uber has hit the 1 million drivers mark. Ritu Singh is joining us with Prabhjeet Singh, the president of Uber India and South Asia. Ritu, over to you.
Uber in India has crossed a significant milestone with more than 1 million drivers now registered on its platform, making India only the third country in the world for Uber to do so after Brazil and the US. The company has also just announced its India Economic Report, which has quite a few interesting findings. So without any further ado, let me welcome Mr. Singh. Thank you very much for speaking to CNBC-TV18. Well, you said auto and moto, these are two of the fastest growing segments. But overall, at what pace is the ride-hailing market in India growing? If you could give us some insights.
Now we're actually seeing growth which has been never seen before in the category. For example, each month we are attracting more new riders and more new drivers to the platform than ever before in our history, which is then leading to the wider industry and our portfolio growing anywhere from high 20s to mid 30s on a year-on-year basis, which I think is an incredibly strong signal to the consumers embracing shared mobility and platforms being able to respond to unique consumer needs. So what Uber is doing is really focused on, in a obsessive manner, to make sure we continue to improve our consumer experience and provide choice.
What does that mean if you were to sum it up in terms of how the ride-hailing market is expanding? At what pace for Uber?
So while we don't share specific numbers for the India market, the fact that we now have 1 million plus active earners on the platform who on a monthly basis are using the platform to earn a living, and that number is growing at a very, very rapid manner. As the macroeconomic trends, for example, as users go back to offices at a much larger number than what had happened right after the pandemic. As travel picks up on back of just a macroeconomic growth in the country, the emerging middle class, infrastructure creation, all of them actually have compounding effects for the ride-hailing industry. And we are seeing that play out. So what we are seeing, for example, early signals of this would show up also in commercial vehicle sales. Now more drivers are actually purchasing a new vehicle than they did for the last 3 years.
Just give us a sense of, what is the kind of investment you're looking to make into India? Maybe give us an outlook for the next 5 years as to how fast the market could grow.
We are very much obsessed about doubling down in the India market. It is one of the fastest growing markets in the portfolio, third largest already, and no reason why it can't be a top 2 market or the largest market at some point in the future. India is and would remain a supply constrained market. This is my personally 10th year at Uber. I won't be here putting my sweat and blood if I didn't believe that this could be transformative, not just for Uber as a global company, but also what we can do for our society here.
But in terms of your own market share, have you seen some hit because of the new entrants?
One thing we have learned consistently is that we operate best when we are competition aware, but not competition obsessed. And that's a mental model with which we are operating. What we are actually seeing is more players entering the market. A is a great signal that they're all seeing potential in the category. B, it actually helps accelerate digitization and bringing more consumers and earners to the platform. So for example, if you look at ONDC, the real vision of taking digital commerce to the masses, we believe that can actually then expand the pie for more users to come into the category, and then for platforms like us with a certain business model to participate in that. And that's what's going on in the market. We continue to see that our market position is the strongest it has been in our history in the market. We are market leaders, and we continue to focus on serving more earners and riders on a regular basis. We can't take our position for granted. We have to be on our toes and continue to execute with our nose to ground.
Well, since you brought up ONDC, you signed this MOU with them earlier in February, to potentially look at an integration with the network. What is the status on that?
We are very, very excited about the potential which ONDC offers. I think not just for digital platforms, but for the country as a whole. And because this is going to create a democratization of access to digital services across the board. We are in a very active dialogue and working in the background on multiple opportunities with ONDC.
We've seen one of your peers look at the food delivery, sort of system with ONDC, that is Ola. Is Uber exploring something like that?
We continue to believe that there is incredible value when you are able to offer multiple services to consumers on the same platform. Having said that, right now we are very much focused on doubling down on our mobility business.
What about the electrification of the fleet? You've now launched in Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi and Kolkata. How soon before you cover more cities, and how much of your fleet is going to be electrified, say, in the coming few years?
Ritu, this is a multi-year journey. I would argue one of the big transformations which are still to play out fully, and India has an opportunity to leapfrog electrification. Having said that, you spoke about 1 million plus earners, getting a high percentage of them to actually embrace their next vehicle to be an EV is not a straightforward task. It is a team sport.
Are you looking at expansion in the near future, perhaps in Tier 2, Tier 3 and those other parts of India?
Look, we always believe that India is a multi-decadal opportunity for us. We have to stay the course. We have to go deep and go wide. There's some cities which we are launching as auto first or moto first. 10 years back, I couldn't have imagined that because we were always a cars-based service. And this transformation in terms of localizing, I think is an incredible case study. There's few cities I will just straight away launch only with a two-wheeler product now.
Given that CCP is now just recently issued a notice to one of your peers because of the rising consumer complaints, would you say for Uber that number has meaningfully moved? Has it come down?
We track consumer feedback, the number of trips which do not go as well as we would like, what we measure as 5-star trips. We measure defects on the trips. We measure support tickets. We measure tickets to external bodies like the grievance helpline. So we track that, and across the board we have seen that our processes are leading to continuously having much lesser number of consumers feeling the
So consumer complaints
experience.
have come down?
Across the board on a blended basis, when we look at this relative to the scale of the platform, we continue to feel good about the direction it has taken.
What about the drivers' earnings? At some point of time, we'd hear from drivers they'd have to pay as much as 30% of what they earned because of the platform fee, because of various taxes they had to make. What are you doing to, increase the earnings for them while also keeping the rides affordable? Because the prices, of course, have been trending up.
That's the heart of the question which we are always obsessed about. Number one, we are very much focused on making sure that with every trip and someone who drives with Uber should be able to have a sustainable earning, which is the alternative which he or she has. At the same time, consumers should have the lowest price possible because that will ensure that they are able to then either ditch their private vehicle or choose Uber or the shared mobility platform versus something else. So to make that equation work, we are making sure that we are providing the best example when it comes to matching. For example, when it comes to partnership with payments companies which provide discounts to consumers, providing extra layer of safety net to drivers beyond earnings. And the proof of the pudding, cutting through all of that, is that we are adding more drivers each month than before. And the only reason that will happen to see the value proposition work for them, and same for consumers. And we have to stick to that. I don't take that for granted, right? Drivers have choice. As you said, there are multiple platforms. Many of them are actually using multiple apps. It's not just about getting the driver onto the platform. It's also about making sure that when they get a choice between different platforms, they choose to do the trip with Uber. And that will happen if they know that, they will know the same thing which you said. If something goes wrong, Uber will have its back in case there was an safety incident. And third, if they need to reach out and talk to us, we are there.
Well, speaking of gig workers, the Karnataka state government is looking at imposing a cess, on these aggregators to sort of make a pool for social security for these gig workers. That draft bill is expected to be tabled soon. What would that mean for the business for Uber?
Gig workers should have the choice to have the flexibility what gig platforms offer, when they drive, where they drive, who they drive with, how many hours they do that, which days of the year they go back to the village. At the same time, it's important to have a safety net. For example, there will be instances of health emergencies, family emergencies, and a safety net should be provided. The best way to do that is to actually have a industry-wide contribution from platforms. So in that spirit, we actually welcome measures towards that. Having said that, we believe that the Code on Social Security, which both houses of the parliament in India have actually passed, and I would argue is a landmark bill, and I would say it's probably a shining light for multiple countries globally. Unfortunately, it's not yet gotten notified and implemented, so we are advocating for that to get implemented. That will make it easier for platforms like us, which have pan-India footprint, to actually participate and contribute to that safety net versus doing it state by state, each with its own different complexities and different rules. I think it's important in the spirit of ease of doing business that the Code on Social Security gets notified reasonably quickly.
And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Startup Street. More news and updates coming up on the other side. Stay tuned.